Good afternoon and good evening, everybody, depending where you are in the world. Welcome to the Henley & Partners Global Webinar on the United States EB-5 Immigrant Investor Visa Program. Thanks for joining us today. During this session, we will discuss how the EB-5 program provides a pathway to permanent residence in the US. We'll cover various aspects of the program, including eligibility, investment requirements, and the application process. My name is Dmitro. I advise high net worth individuals and their families on various citizenship and residency by investment programs. And also being a program manager for the US EB-5, I am happy to guide you through its benefits and requirements. So for those who are not familiar with Henley & Partners, I'm happy to share a few words about our key products and services. Henley & Partners is a global leader in citizenship and residency by investment industry. Our business includes two core divisions. The first one is our private client advisory, where we develop and implement strategies for obtaining alternative residency and citizenship for high net worth individuals and their families. This division also offers additional services such as education planning for the investor's children, real estate investment, concierge services, and more. The second part of our business focuses on advising various governments worldwide. We design and structure citizenship and residency programs or improve the existing ones. We help investors and business persons obtain citizenship and residency in over 40 jurisdictions. On this slide, you can see the top programs and destinations that we offer. This includes permanent residency in both America's European Golden Visa programs, Australia Golden Talent Program, and various options in Africa, Asia, and the Middle East. With over 55 offices and 25 years of experience, we have facilitated over $12 billion in foreign direct investment and helped over 25,000 clients diversify their residence and citizenship portfolios. We also have an impressive on-the-ground presence with more than 55 offices located on all the continents, probably except for Antarctica. Now, I think we should go to our main topic today, US EB-5 Investor Visa Program. I don't think we need to focus on the United States as a country itself, as it doesn't need any introduction, being the world's largest economy with enormous opportunities in business, startups, education, nature, lifestyle, and every economic sector you can think of. So let's dive straight into EB-5 program. Here in this and next few slides, I will give you a high-level overview of the EB-5 program, and then we will focus on each criteria in more detail in the following slides. So what is the EB-5 program? It is essentially a direct path to US permanent residency, also known as a green card. The EB-5 program was created in the early 1990s to stimulate economic growth and decrease unemployment through direct investment from foreign investors. What is a green card? A green card is a permanent residence permit in the US that allows its holders to live, work, run business in the US territory. It grants its holders rights almost equal to those of a citizen, except for probably voting or holding some governmental positions. There are many ways to obtain a green card, but EB-5 is the only program that does not require applicants to prove their educational qualifications, English language proficiency, business experience, or have a US-based sponsor, as all the other EB-5 categories do. It is also it's also possible to include a spouse and children under 21 years of age who are unmarried and have no children. Compared to the EB-5, all other visa categories have stricter requirements, making the EB-5 a much easier and less resistant way for qualified investors to obtain permanent residency in the US. Some other benefits of the EB-5 program include that funds can be gifted to children. Investors can give their funds to the children if they don't want to apply by themselves. but want to secure permanent residence for their children. Green card holders have access to cheaper education. Also, for the EB-5 program, there is, as I've mentioned before, there is no language requirement, no business experience requirement, no degree requirement, also very flexible stay requirements. And on top of that, this is a passive investment, which does not need investors to be involved in daily business operations. Now let's discuss the investment and application requirements for the EB-5 program. So there are 4 main requirements. The first one is sorry, I think I switched. Yep, this is right. So there are 4 main requirements for EB-5. The first one is the investment itself. The investors should invest a minimum of $800,000 into a government-approved regional center, choosing 2 possible options. First, investing into the project which is located in the target employment area, which can be the rural, where the population is less than 20,000 inhabitants, or the high unemployment area, where the unemployment rate is 150% of the national average, or invest $1,050,000 in other areas. It's important to mention that the investment amount is increased every 5 years to reflect the inflation rate. The second requirement is job creation. Qualified investors must create and preserve 10 full-time permanent jobs for U.S. citizens or for U.S. permanent residents. So this is one of the main requirements also. The third one is source of funds. Of course, each and every investor should demonstrate a transparent, lawful source of their funds. Now, the good news is there is no source of wealth required, as many other citizenship or residency programs do. And the fourth one is the investment duration. The investment should be preserved for at least 2 years in the project. However, I could say that this term depends on the project and usually is structured between 3 to 5 years, with the possibility of extension for another year or 2. Now, let's delve into where the investment goes. And actually, there are only 2 options of where the funds can go. The first one is the regional center investment. The first and most popular investment is to the regional center, which is an organization authorized and regulated by USCIS. This stands for the United States Citizenship and Immigration Services, to stimulate economic growth in the designated regions. Regional centers identify and source projects that qualify for the program, providing financial support either through the loan interest loans in the loan model or by acquiring an equity in the project in the equity model. Structurally, I can compare regional center being a hybrid between a mutual investment fund and the bank, offering affordable financing to specific projects. And the second is the direct investment. It's a less popular model where the investor launches his or her new project independently. Again, the minimum investment requirement is the same. The investors should create a new commercial enterprise, create 10 permanent jobs. Again, this is a less popular model. I will compare it with the regional center in the next slides. So why is the regional center model more popular than the direct investment? First, let's get to the statistics, which speaks for itself. And 94% of all of the investors choose the regional center route, while only 6% opt for direct investment. Experience and track record. Regional centers we work with have a proven track record and extensive experience in EB-5 projects. Most of them operate in the market for more than 10 years. Some of them operate for decades. And this significantly reduces the risk compared to launching a new project independently from scratch. Job creation. I want to emphasize on this. When the investor chooses the direct investment route, jobs are usually calculated directly, meaning the actual number of employees working for the project, where while investing via regional center, jobs are calculated both directly and indirectly through a specific methodology recognized by the government. You can find on the internet the detailed description of those methodologies. Some of them are called IMPLAN, IMPLAN, or RIMS2, or IMS2, where you can go and see how this methodologies work. They take into account industry linkage to determine the total economic effect on the project in the region and consider the entire capital stack of the project, not just the personal investment amount. So in conclusion, original center investment is less risky and provides a way smoother path to in the EB-5 process. So the next one is the financial requirements, the most interesting part. A few words about the financial requirements. So as said before, the minimum investment amount is $800,000, which is subject to verification of the source of funds. And again, as mentioned before, there is no source of wealth required, unlike many other residency or citizenship programs. So we should prove that only this $800,000 were either obtained through the business or even a loan is possible. The investor can take a loan to apply for EB-5. Second one is the administrative fee of the original cent. Again, it depends on the project, and the range is between 60 to, would say, roughly $80,000, usually not refundable, but still there is always a possibility to negotiate this. The legal fees vary and depend on the complexity of the application, family composition, but from my experience, it does not usually exceed $35,000. And the government fees, filing fees, which are now approximately $15,000. So overall, we are speaking about the $920,000, from which 800,000 is the investment, return investment, and the other amount is from the fees. Now, let's speak about the timeline and the application requirements. Structurally, we can divide the application process into 3 stages. The first stage is, I would call it the pre-qualification. We will work with the qualified investor on their source of funds. And then at the same time, in the parallel, we choose the regional center and the project where to invest in. This usually takes up to, I would say, 3 months. Sometimes it's less. Sometimes it can be done faster. Sometimes it can be done way longer, depending on the source of funds or many other aspects. But still, this is the most quick stage in the whole process. The second stage is more interesting. And this happens when the investment is completed. The documents are submitted to the USCIS. This usually takes in between 6 to 36 months for the application to be approved by the government. The immigration lawyer completes the source of funds with the investor and confirms that the investment can now be transferred and completed. And there are 2 different ways to submit the application. We have the regular consular processing, or the second option is the adjustment of status through the concurrent filing. And here's the difference between these 2. Regular consular processing happens when the clients are located outside of the US and they stay in the country where they live, where they have their citizenship or residence. It doesn't really matter. After the investment is completed, the immigration attorney files the I-526 petition at this stage. Through this petition, USCIS evaluates the completed investment, verifies the source of funds, and reviews the original sender's business plan, including location, job creation methodology, etc. The investor and family waits outside of the US until the I-5 to 6 petition is approved. After the approval, the application is filed, including various personal documents. And again, after the approval, the investor and family then can move to the US. The second way to apply is the adjustment status through the concurrent filing, which is more suitable for investors and clients who move to the US first under different type of visa, or who are already in the US. At this stage, the lawyer files both the petition and the application simultaneously, given that the investor is already in the US. I'm going to stress out this. The investors can apply for work and travel authorization while waiting for their petition to be approved. Even if their current visa is expired, the investor can legally stay in the US, do business, work, or travel while waiting for their green cards to be issued. After the approval, the investor and family members obtain a 2-year conditional green card, which can be later adjusted to a permanent 10-year green card in the next stage. And the third stage is pretty much the final stage in the EB-5 journey, where the conditions are removed and the permanent 10-year green card is issued. This usually takes in between 12 to 18 months, again, depending on the project and the current situation. 2 years after the conditional green card is issued, the lawyer files the I-8 to 9 petition. Under this petition, the USCIS evaluates whether 10 jobs were created and whether the money was kept in the project for at least 2 years. So a small remark here says the word of law says that the minimum holding period is 2 years. It does not identify where this 2-year period starts. So usually the investors should expect their money to be stuck in the project for at least 3 years, usually a little bit more. And once the I-8 to 9 petition is approved, a 10-year permanent green card is issued that can be either renewed multiple times or after 5 years of permanent residency, including the first 2 years. The investor has the option to apply for US citizenship. So this is a very high level, I would say, description of the EB-5 process. During our next webinars, we're gonna delve even deeply into the project themselves and application process. And before, also please feel free to type your questions in the Q&A session. We're gonna answer them after the presentation. And before that, I'm going to go through the frequently asked questions that we usually get from our prospects and clients on EB-5. So the most typical question is, everybody understands that EB-5 journey is quite a long journey, which takes a few years to be completed. And the usual question is, how can I speed up the processing time? There is a possibility. This is not guaranteed, but still, projects that are located in the rural target employment areas are subject to expedited processing. And we've seen some petitions were approved in less than 6 months. However, again, this is not guaranteed, and I would expect the application to be processed within 12 to roughly 16 months. Is there a limit of number of EB-5 visas issued annually? And the answer is yes. There's a cap of 10,000 visas issued per calendar year. Another typical question is, are the visas issued equally for all types of project? And after the 2022 reauthorization, now there is something which is called the set asides of fees of EB-5 visas for certain types of projects, where 20% of all visas are set aside for rural projects, 10% of all the visas are set for high unemployment areas, and 2% are set aside for infrastructural projects. Another question is, do I get my money back if the petition is not approved? The short answer is yes. Depending on the project, the investment can be refunded within a few months if your petition is denied. However, this should be negotiated with the respective regional center before investing and before submitting the application, because the conditions are always different. And the investor should make sure that all the risks have been written down on the paper. The other typical question we get is, when do I get my money back from the project? Well, the investment return period is typically, as said before, between 2 to 5 years, sometimes 6 or 7. Again, the new visa bulletin indicates that the money can be redeemed 2 years after the investment. However, the start of this 2 years period is not clearly identified. It could be 2 years after the funds are transferred to the escrow account of the regional center, or when the funds are moved from the escrow account to the project. So to evaluate the risks, most of the regional centers, they structure the projects and the holding period as 2 + 1 + 1 subsisting year, or 3 + 1 + 1. So I would expect a little bit over than 3 years of the holding period. A simple question: at what point do I invest? At what point in time does the money go to the regional center or to the escrow account? And the money can be transferred after the immigration attorney completes the documentation proving the source of funds, because the source of funds is one of the most crucial and important steps in the whole process. Another typical question of, is there any annual interest on my investment? Again, the short answer is yes. However, this program, the EB-5 Immigrant Investor Program, was not invented for interests or for obtaining any annual capital. The interest of the investment is usually less than 1% after taxes, can be 1 or 2%. But again, the biggest return from your money is a green card, but not the money. And this should be taken into account, that the biggest return is your green card and your way to the American dream. Another typical question is, what is the investor's role in the regional center? Do they become a shareholder of the regional center? I would say usually the relationship between the regional center and the investor are structured as a limited partnership, where the regional center acts as a general partner and the investors act as limited partners. So no, typically investors do not become shareholders. Well, they are shareholders in some way, but they do not have any impact on the business and act as passive investment holders. So this is pretty much it about the EB-5 Immigrant Investor Program. We've covered the basic steps, the basic requirements. And now I'm very happy if you have any questions, we are happy to answer them. As you know, this session is recorded, and you will get, if you cannot get your answer in the language you've selected, we have a Q&A session, and we will be able to follow up with your question afterwards if you get your question in the language rather than English. And now I'm gonna go to the Q&A session. And yeah, please feel free to reach out to me if you have any questions or you want to schedule a one-to-one consultation on EB-5. You can easily scan this QR code and get my contact directly. So let's check the Q&A session. So please do send me slides of email, most important from India. Yeah, we will be following up and we will be sharing this recording the after the webinar. Can we use leverage to get the investment corpus to $800,000? Yes, you can actually take a loan from the bank. I would recommend it to be a secure loan. Yes, this is possible. This is quite a common situation when the money is leveraged for the EB-5 program. So Epay is asking, can investment go to my company incorporated in Delaware? Is it okay if the fund is raised from a venture capital? How long the 10 jobs to be maintained? Do we need to live there certain number of days in the year to maintain the green card status and qualify for the citizenship? Well, as I've said earlier, yes, this is possible to incorporate your company and structure it as an EB-5 project. However, this might be a little bit more challenging. I would say not a little bit, but way more challenging than investing through the regional center. Is it okay if the fund is raised from a venture capital? Yes, it's fine. How long the 10 jobs need to be maintained? At least for 2 years. And do we need to live a certain number of days in the year to maintain the green card status for the quality for the citizen? That's a very good question, and I would say the short answer is the US is very flexible, and what matters more is where your interest, where's your location, where's your country of interest. So what matters more is that you have your activity in the US, meaning your kids go to school, you have your bank account, you have your real estate in the US. But normally you should spend at least 6 months in a year to qualify for citizenship. And you can apply. There's a possibility to apply for US citizenship after 5 years of continuous living in the country. If you want to find out more, yes, please reach out to me on my WhatsApp or my email here on the slide. If one applies as a family and gets a green card but does not convert it to citizenship, then is one liable to US tax on global income? Thank you, Tazeen. Well, I would recommend to address this question to the US tax lawyer, since we are not tax lawyer and we cannot give tax advice on this. But on a very high level, yes, green card is already subject to a global income. But please, if you want, we can refer you to get tax lawyers in the US to go deeply into your situation. If EB-5 is refused, can the investment fund be refunded and how? Thank you. Yes, it can be refunded. I've mentioned it as a few slides back. This should be negotiated with the regional center before we submit the application and before we transfer the investment amount. But the short answer is yes, it can be refunded, and usually it is refunded. But again, we do a very thorough due diligence before we start the application just to make sure that there are no risks involved in your application process. Can you describe some examples of the projects? Well, there are very many projects from a lot of industries. Just a few examples: a hotel, a development of the hotel in New York, a hotel in LA, a ski resort in the mountains, an oil facility in Texas. So there are very, very many projects to consider. We can go through each and every one from them. Just let me know, reach out on my WhatsApp or email. I'm happy to schedule a call and describe the projects that we offer. The question about the source of funds, what are commonly accepted source of fund and how strict the source of funds is to be assessed? I couldn't say there is a very commonly accepted source of funds, because it can be either your salary if you're a top manager, it can be your dividends from your business, it can be your business income, it can be a gift, it can be inheritance, it can be a loan. Yeah, there are very many ways to complete a source of funds, and very many clients with a vast diversity of source of funds. As for the second part of the question on how strict the source of funds is, I would say that the US EB-5 program has one of the most strict source of fund processes in the industry. And usually I use the very same example with one of our clients that inherited a big company from his grandfather, and his grandfather passed away many years ago, and we should have proved where the grandfather obtained the money, the funds to launch this company, which was later, like 40 or 50 years later, inherited by his grandson. But please don't be scared. This all can be figured out. There's no big complexity in this. It's just a little bit more of paperwork. But yes, again, the source of funds is very important, if not the most important part of the whole EB-5 process. Is there a risk that investment generates a loss? Danielle is asking. This is quite a common question, and since this is a risky investment, by the word of law, your money should stay at risk all the time. Yes, there is always a risk that an investment can generate a loss, but from what we've experienced during the last years, there was not a loss, rather than just a very tiny income, usually less than 1%. But again, a very thorough due diligence should be prior to the application, and the proper regional center with a good track record should be chosen. Again, to look in the future, we should always look in the past and see how the regional center performed in the past. And if, well, bad regional centers do not actually survive in the industry. So we should always keep looking at the track record, how the regional center performed in the past, and from this make a decision if to go from this or that regional center. Please do send me the slides. Yes, we will be sharing this this recording. Is the process longer for applicants from India and Bangladesh, or can it be 1.5 years? And mentioned, yes, unfortunately, sometimes applicants from India, Bangladesh, I wouldn't say Bangladesh, predominantly India, China, and Vietnam. Sometimes the applications can be processed more than 1.5 years. So I would say, again, this is not guaranteed, but investing through the rural project might be helpful and might save the situation and save a few months for applicants from India, Bangladesh, China, and Vietnam, probably. Please share the slides. Yes, we will share them. So let me go one more time through the Q&A session. Is there any difference for people that is living in the US as a student F1 visa? Yes, as I've said at the very beginning, this is a very common situation when the person is already in the US, and you can actually apply for EB-5 being a student. You can gift your money for your kid, and your kid can invest through the concurrent filing while being in the US on the student visa. Samir, that's a very good questions you've mentioned. Please, if you could please send me over those on email. There is no very quick and simple answer on that. So I think the best way is to discuss this and the immigration lawyer together. So Samir, please reach me out on my email or my WhatsApp. Thank you. So I think these are pretty much all the questions we had. Do they have a country-specific allocation? No, they have the project set-aside allocation, which I've mentioned before, 20% rural project, 10% high unemployment area project, and 2% for infrastructural projects. Another question from Daniel: since which step of the process the applicants start paying taxes in US as a resident? Again, I would address this question to the tax lawyer in the US, but the simple answer is when you get your green card, when you get your conditional green card. How many EB-5 applications does the government receive each year? Given only 1,000 applications are granted annually. Not 1,000, it's 10,000 applications per year. Okay, I think we don't have any more questions so far. Just give them a few more seconds if anybody wants to type in another question. Again, if you do have any further questions, please use my contact section here, or you just can scan the QR code. This recording would be followed up and sent over to each participant of this session. And please stay tuned. Follow our social media on LinkedIn, YouTube, and Instagram, and we will be soon publishing the updates on our next sessions on EB-5, where we'll be going even deeply into the EB-5 process. Naveen is asking, is global income taxable once you get a green card? Is there a threshold? Again, we are not, unfortunately, tax advisors, so I would address this question to the tax lawyer. Please reach me out if you want to be introduced to one of our good standing partners in taxation in the US. We're happy to help with that. Okay, yeah, since that's pretty much it. Thanks Thanks everyone for participating. Thanks for your questions. And do reach me out if you have any doubts, any concerns, any further questions. I'm here to help you with the very impressive journey through the EB-5 process. Thanks, and see you during our next webinars. Stay tuned. Bye.